Well, for the first time, Taiwan's military generals have specified 2027 as a possible date when China could attempt an invasion. The Defense Ministry in Taipei says it'll use the date to estimate the kinds of weaponry and tactics that Beijing might use if it attacks during this year's main annual military exercise there. Let's get more on this with Tingting Liu, foreign affairs and military correspondent for TVBS News in Taiwan. Tingting, good to have you with us on the program. Now, firstly, why have the top brass in Taiwan's military identified that year, 2027, as the year that China might invade?
Good evening. Thank you for having me back on the program again tonight. So we are actually seeing this is such new information indeed to have an actual specific year and date in turn for Taiwan. I think actually for that is to put the military more in their perspective. You know, when they are having this annual military drill in the past, they tend to be a bit more in the gray zone tactic because in a way they will also want to maintain the fact that they do not want to anger any possible let's say the PLA or putting in communist China. But what we are actually seeing right now is because there's an increasing threat from the PLA from China. So in turn, you know, it's actually more practical for the Taiwanese military to have a target in mind as they prepare for their training. And the annual annual training actually happens every July. So it's the largest military drill that happens every year. So and according to what the defense minister said the other day, Taiwan has actually procured many new military articles. So we are looking at the newest HIMARS, the M1A2T tanks, and hopefully, I mean, maybe over the next few years, we are also receiving the F-16CD Block 17 jets, which are actually still in the States right now. But, you know, by putting this new military articles into and putting them into our current drill and training, that actually gives also the military a more larger perspective as they prepare for any incoming threat. And putting the year 2027 is no doubt, even though the China has not said that they will invade Taiwan in that year, but no doubt the PLA is putting that into its perspective as President Xi Jinping of China actually said that, you know, Taiwan hopes that the PLA to be military compatible by the year 2027. And also it is actually quite logical for a military exercise Taiwan doing in 2025 this year, putting what might happen over the next 2 years as a real possible threat into our current military training.
Yes, and is it the possibility as well that you know, the defense chiefs across Taiwan's Navy, Air Force, etc., that they do want to send that message to the political establishment in Taiwan that, you know, it's time to actually procure more equipment?
It's still, I mean, that the Taiwanese government actually made a pledge internationally that we are going to increase our defense budget of the GDP, the defense budget to 3%. And obviously, actually, there are actually more international voices that hopes that Taiwan could possibly increase that to, let's say, 4%, 5%, or even 10%, as we see what the US President or Donald Trump actually and his team actually hopes that Taiwan will be able to put more responsibility, I would say, onto Taiwan's defense. But no doubt we are seeing that there's a lot of money that Taiwan is trying to put into defense right now, as we are seeing, although this kind of things actually would take time. But at the same time, I would say that putting the year into 2027 onto the tabs is not only to talk to the Taiwanese political scene, but also to the international scene, because we are actually seeing an increased threat around Taiwan. Just giving everyone an example, you know, for on Monday this week, the PLA actually has again did their joint combat patrol around Taiwan, and that is actually the 10th time this year. Looking, you see, we are already into mid-March, and there has been like 10 times of this. And what does it mean by joint combat patrol? It means that the PLA jets and the PLA Navy vessels has been trying to target Taiwan's 24 nautical miles contiguous zone at the same time. So can you imagine these jets and these PLA vessels, you know, charging towards that line, that 24 nautical mile zone, forcing the Taiwanese military to also react accordingly. And also, we actually no doubt seeing an increasing threat, and obviously there's hopes within the Taiwanese government that there will be continued international attention.
If it is the case, Tingting, that this message of 2027 was, like you said, aimed at Taiwan's allies overseas, how concerning is it then that, you know, Donald Trump hasn't quite said, and his administration hasn't quite said if it will order or may order the U.S. military to help defend Taiwan if China ever invades.
Some things are actually for Taiwan is more important that things are being done than things are being said. So what we actually do know of that is that currently, at least of right now, is that the allies of Taiwan, including the U.S., still continue to assist with training or military article procurement in Taiwan. And no doubt, Taiwan is prepared to buy the military articles that is needed for its own self-defense. And right now we're also seeing messages coming out of the State Department that they would want to uphold the status quo and they do not want to see a change within Taiwan Strait. And they also actually strongly condemns against the Chinese military or this kind of efforts against Taiwan in that sense. So no doubt, even though that President Trump actually did not say it out openly, and he actually repeatedly avoided that question. But I think it's more important to see that right now whether Taiwan has been trying to increase our military capabilities and our joint training with possible allies, in case of any near future attack, which we really hope would not happen.
Yes, and briefly, Tingting, how are people in Taiwan reacting to what the military said, and what's the feeling of when there are calls in the political establishment to increase defense spending? Would they want more money to be spent on defense? Are there other priorities that the Taiwanese people want?
No, I mean, this is a talk of the town. I mean, people are talking about look, we defense spending spent on welfare, education is also equally important. But no doubt, I think there is an increasing consensus that the money needs to be spent in defense. But obviously, I mean, the Taiwanese parliament right now, there's a lot of debate. There's also what's happening in Taiwan. There's also a recall election, which will be happen in July and August. That is still yet to be seen. I mean, there's internal politics in Taiwan, but I think across Taiwan, people actually are trying to encourage the military to have more rapid kind of changes and increased changes. Hopefully that the Taiwanese military will be ready if the time do come.
Okay, Tingting Liu, always appreciate your insights there from Taipei. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.